Okay, welcome to P&W Repair. If you are joining us for the first time, I'm Andy. Today we are going to be putting some fuel injectors in this 2017 Honda CR-V. Stick with me. Let's do this jazz. So, unfortunately to do these, you have to pull the intake manifold off, which on this particular engine, what is this, a 1.5 liter turbo? The intake manifold is on the back, along with the injectors under said manifold. So, we will start by yarding everything off of that intake manifold and removing it. Ooh, if I don't knock the camera over in the process. So, Managed to get that intake manifold off, like I originally thought. 3 bolts up top, or I should say 1 bolt, 2 studs on the other end. On the bottom, just 2 bolts. This one does not have the bracket like a lot of the earlier, I think the 1.7s had a metal bracket that came off and bolted it to the block. Doesn't have it, so that makes it a little easier than just the 4 10 millimeter headed, what are those, M6 bolts that hold the throttle body on. And what we got, well, 1 sensor and a couple hoses, and she's off. That easy, right? So with that off, get some light. It's gonna be really hard to film this, I think, but this shiny thing right there is the fuel rail. So next we will disconnect that line, that's your high pressure line, to the rail. And then we'll go ahead and unbolt. There should be eight either nuts or bolts that hold the rail on there. So we will go ahead and zip those out while we're at it. So with the rail off, you can see the tops of the injectors. I've got 1 out so far. With any direct injection injector, depending on the time that they've been in the cylinder head, it is common for that carbon buildup on the nozzle of the injector to build up so much that it does not want to come out of the cylinder head. It's just about patience when it comes to getting these out of the cylinder head. A lot of wiggling them, just trying to work them up and down, side to side. I'll put a pry bar up against the cylinder head and right up, I'll show you, right up on that lip, and just gently pry on it like that. I'll work it back and forth more, and it's just a repetitive motion. And eventually you'll get enough of that carbon to fall off into the cylinder where that will slide out. So I want to work on these other 3. Wish me luck. So we got the old ones out. See how well the camera picks this up. So the big issue with a direct injected engine, as far as gas engines go, is carbon buildup on the injector tips. And it'll actually affect the spray pattern. You'll get in those little holes in the nozzle, and you'll affect the spray pattern or the atomization of the fuel in the cylinder, and you'll get all kinds of issues that arise from it, whether it's rich or lean codes or misfire codes. All kinds of problems can happen from it. So the new Chinese Honda knockoff ones are installed on the rail, and as you can see, you got that gap. So that's because the Teflon has to go through that cylinder head, and it is a very tight fit, and it's supposed to be, so you don't have combustion leak. So what I'll do to draw those injectors and the rail in is I'll snug all those bolts up real evenly and just bring them in a little bit at a time all the way across, and just bring that whole rail in just tiny bits at a time, working each bolt, quarter turn, half turn, whatever, so I can evenly bring the rail in, and that'll push the injectors into the cylinder head. So that's where we're at now. So the rail is all torqued down, injectors are seated, rail pressure sensor is plugged in. We got that protective bracket back over pressure sensor. We have our fuel line screwed back on, tightened down. It's tightened back down at the high pressure pump as well. We are ready to put our intake manifold back on, so that's what we're doing next. It's the cutest little intake manifold. So we got 2 studs at either corner of the intake that this should slide in there on. Like so. Go ahead and start the nuts for those 2 studs. Good thing that hit the ground. Let's try that again. Beautiful. All right, 3 bolts. Got 1 in the top, 2 down underneath. Go ahead and start this top one. Take our extension and socket for the lower ones. I don't have any magnetic sockets, but we can make do without having a magnetic socket to do this. Now there's little holes, just 2 holes for these lower bolts. I don't want to hit the ground, but you can see the head of the bolt where the hole's at in the bottom of the intake. So it's just a matter of feeling things around, I suppose. There we go. Grab that bolt, but again, drop it on the ground. Good thing it's hitting the ground. This thing doesn't have a big splash shield under it. Catch all your bolts and make your life more difficult. Just like that. We'll come back up top, snug our middle one. And our outside bolts, nuts rather. Okay. It's tightened up. Get our throttle body bolted back up now. So we're back together running. I hooked up my scan tool and I went to take it for a drive around the block. Made it maybe half a mile down the road before decided to go into limp mode. It was counting misses on cylinders 3 and 2. Well, it set a temporary code for cylinder 3 misfire, and it was missing bad enough, or dumping enough fuel in there that it was actually flashing the check engine light, which means it's potentially catalytic converter damaging event, which makes me think it's probably just dumping fuel. So kind of like I told the customer to start with, it's not likely that these injectors were going to be any good. Unfortunately, it's one of those things, you get what you pay for. There's a reason they're cheap. I just messaged him. I'm waiting to hear back from him on what he wants to do. He's either going to have a tow truck come get this thing from my place, or he's going to go pick up a set of factory injectors, because I'm only going to do this job one more time, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put another set of Chinese ones in there just to see if, maybe they'll work. But we'll see. It's going to do it for this video, guys. At least, you got the process down on how to do it once. And if you do go about putting injectors in any of these Hondas or whatever DI engine, do the right thing and buy the factory ones to start with. That way you're not doing it over again. It's not as big of a deal for someone like me, because I'm just getting paid twice. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing it for yourself, save yourself the time and headache and buy the factory ones to start with. It will benefit you in the long run. I will catch you guys on the next one.